Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have a very cool statue to take a look at. This is one that I did want for quite a little while, but I was not able to get a hold of it initially, even though it was one of the cheaper Damtoys models. Obviously, this is from Damtoys, which I did not actually state that earlier in the review, but this is the Gigantspinosaurus versus Velociraptor scene. There are actually numerous different versions of this. First of all, there's a Gigantspinosaurus by itself, no raptor included, and then there's also this version, and then there's also another version as far as like the alternate paint scheme of both the Gigantspinosaurus and the Velociraptor that we have here. However, I will say straight away and get it over with immediately as far as this review goes, because I don't want to continuously comment on it too much. I'll probably mention it again at some point because that's just the way I work, but I don't have a clue what Velociraptor this could possibly be. Giving you a wider shot of this to kind of show you how nice the model is. Again, it's a really cool looking scene occurring before you of a Gigantspinosaurus, obviously in mid-battle with a Velociraptor. And as far as the Damtoys listing goes, it states that it is an Inner Mongolia Velociraptor. But the Inner Mongolia Velociraptor, in my opinion, I would think would be Velociraptor osmalski, but I don't think that one lived at the same time as Gigantspinosaurus, as Gigantspinosaurus is from the Jurassic and osmalski, I believe, is from the Cretaceous. So I'm a little confused exactly as far as what species of Velociraptor this truly is, although I will say that it is again a really cool looking model from Damtoys, and I was recently able to acquire this from my good buddy Jimmy, who was selling off a ton of his collection as he prepares for a new child, and I was lucky enough to be offered this as well as quite a few other statues at a really good price. So the model looks really cool, even though again I have no idea what Velociraptor exactly this is. The model looks absolutely awesome regardless, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at it right now. So straight away taking a look at our raptor first, you can see that the sculpt is very interesting, very unique, and such a strange and different look as far as a raptor goes. I don't think I've ever seen a Velociraptor look like this as far as the appearance and the way that they've kind of feathered it. It's so strange as far as like the feathering goes. And first of all, you'll probably notice that we have one of the Gigantspinosaurus shoulder spikes here contained within the Velociraptor, because that's actually how it goes on to our Gigantspinosaurus, as you can now see him down there minus a shoulder spike. That's how you apply it. It's all connected. There is no way to just hold the raptor alone other than bringing that shoulder spike with it. But again, it's so strange looking the way that they've sculpted this raptor out with kind of like almost some Jurassic Park 3 style quills up here on the top of the head. And then you just have like super strange feathering that pokes out all over the place. I will say that I do like it because of the fact that it's so unique looking and so different. But at the same time, I'm really thinking it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea just because of how strange looking it is. But as far as a sculpting and detailing aspect goes, you can see that it looks really quite nice as far as the fine detailing of the face goes. And there is a lot of color variation included up here on the face. Plenty of different tones of like reds and yellows and darker shades of like blacks and all kinds of stuff going on as far as the coloration up here on the face. So Damtoys is definitely not shy about giving us a really interesting paint job and a really colorful appearance to our raptor. You can see they've even applied some nice dry brushing. As you can see, those scales up here on the top of the head have been nicely highlighted with a dark dry brushing. One area of the raptor, though, I will say I'm not a fan of is the mouth. I don't like the way that they've painted the teeth. First of all, the teeth just look kind of strange to me, and the teeth are all sculpted together, and they're kind of painted with a yellowish brown, almost like an orangish brown. And although I do like some realism as far as not giving your animal or your dinosaur's teeth a bright white, I feel like this coloration isn't so good, and it definitely doesn't look all that nice and natural on the model. I definitely feel like they could have done a better job as far as this goes, especially when it comes to being kind of like a higher end statue. They definitely could have given it, a bit more of a realistic look. Even just sculpting out the teeth individually would have really helped a lot, or even just giving it like a nice light dry brushing maybe of like a lighter kind of an off-white across those teeth could have definitely helped as well, but they chose not to. It doesn't look terrible, it just could have looked better. The tongue on the inside of the mouth sports a really nice sculpt, beautiful textured appearance, as well as some really nice coloration and a nice gloss coat, which the entire mouth does include is a nice gloss coat, giving it a very nice, very realistic shine. The eye is painted quite beautifully as well. You can see it's very nice and carefully placed. The paintwork, aside from the teeth, is usually really good on Damtoys models, and I can say that this raptor also looks really quite nice. As we run down here in the neck region, you can see, I don't know if this is meant to be like feathers right here, or if that's just kind of like skin hanging off of the dinosaur. I have absolutely no idea, but it's also a very strange looking appearance for a velociraptor yet again right there. As you look up here on the top of the back, you have almost like a quill-like look that runs down the course of the spinal column, and you can see that the quills look very different as far as the sizes and everything as you run down the course of the body. Like they really change a lot. They get very fine as you end out here on the tip of the tail, but throughout the rest of the body it's like very wavy, but it looks really cool. Definitely gives the raptor a unique appearance. And then we have those super strange feathers that stick out here in the neck region with quite a few different tones of color, with like maroons and even like light reds and even some hints of like yellows and oranges throughout. Very interesting looking detailing and appearance for our raptor. I will say that another area of this model that could have been improved upon would actually be these feathers that stick out here, because although they look really cool and they're sculpted with decent detailing, they definitely don't have that highly detailed of a look. If my camera would stay focused on it, that highly detailed look as far as the actual feather detail. Like you don't see really any fine detailing going on the feathers. It's just like the outer shape of the feathers, and then there's not really much else going on. So that as well could have definitely been improved upon. But once you get into the body, you can see that the scale detail actually looks really, really beautiful on this model. Definitely very nicely done, and there's plenty of different tones of color to go around. We have like a nice striping effect that runs down the course of the body of our raptor, with lots of different shades of yellows and browns and stuff included within, some nice dry brushing to make the detailing pop. We have more of those very interesting feathers that run down the course of the arm. Really nice scale detail included in the arm as well, and you have some beautiful scoots down the course of the hands, as well as some really nicely painted nails. The nails do have kind of a bloody appearance to them because, of course, our raptor here is attacking the Gigantspinosaurus. If we come back here into the hip, you can see the hip bone protruding from the skin a little bit right there, as well as some more really nice dry brushing, some more of those crazy feathers sticking out here of the hip region. Again, it's just so strange the way this is sculpted. And then as you move down the course of the body, you have some beautiful texturing to the skin as far as the scaling and everything goes. Really nice scoots down the course of the foot. You have some nicely sculpted out and painted nails, again giving a little bit of a bloody look as the raptor is attacking. You can see the dew claws sticking out, and all of the claws do genuinely feel sharp, so they look super realistic. And then we lead up here into the tail, and you can see some nice scale detail here on the underside of the tail, some nice tones of color, even like light shades of pink and stuff. And then as we get back up here, we have like those shades of yellows, browns, and even some slight hints of greens. And then you have those almost goofy looking feathers that run out the course of the tail. They taper off as you get closer to the tip. The opposing side looks pretty much just like this side, but the feathers kind of obscure a lot of the details because they kind of hide like a lot of the detail within the dinosaur, so you don't see as much going on detail-wise as you would normally see from a raptor model like this. But you can see the detailing here in the neck region looks pretty much just like we had seen on the previous side. You have nice creases and stuff going on there in the neck region. Some beautiful muscle tone displayed in the arm down here, as well as just generally lots of really nice movement in the skin where you can actually see the skin. The hand sculpt over here looks really nice like we had seen on the previous side. Even the detailing on the underside of the raptor does look really quite nice, even though the shoulder spike does get in the way quite a bit here trying to see it. The leg sculpt also looks really good back here, just like we had seen on the previous side, and I love that they've actually dry brushed some of the scale detail out throughout this figure. It really makes the detail pop and look very realistic. The foot sculpt looks nice over here. Again, the nails look super sharp and very legit, quite nicely painted and given a little bit of a bloody appearance there at the tips. And then we lead back up into the tail. Again, we have more of those somewhat goofy looking feathers. So very interesting take on a raptor, even though I have absolutely no idea what species it is. And then we have our Gigantspinosaurus, who is going to lose a shoulder spike throughout this entire review, because otherwise that raptor would be severely in the way. But you can see that the head sculpt looks really quite nice, gorgeously sculpted as far as that detailing aspect goes. Beautiful scaling here on the underside, even sporting kind of like a few osteoderms and stuff. The inside of the mouth has a really nice, very realistic coloration to it. You can see a beautiful gloss coat has been added. You can even see the tongue sticking out right there, which also sports a really nice coloration and gloss coat. The detailing here on the beak of the dinosaur looks fantastic as well. Really nice nostrils sculpted out. As we lead back here toward the eye area, you can see like some scoots that run up and under the eye socket area, as well as a beautifully painted eye, which is gorgeously glossed and looks very nice and realistic. The top of the head as well looks incredibly nicely done as far as the texturing aspect goes. As you lead back here into the neck region of our Gigantspinosaurus, you have some gorgeous detailing there in the plates on the back, as well as the very rough looking skin texture of our dinosaur. Lots of really nice movement is shown within the neck sculpt of the dinosaur as well. You can see some very nice scoots, very large scoots that run down the course of the body, or osteoderms, whatever you'd like to call them, as well as some hanging skin in the throat region all over the place down here. You have lots of skin wrinkles and creasing going on, showing some of the nice movement of our dinosaur. The coloration is gorgeous on these Damtoys models. Like, they really do a good job of giving them a very lifelike appearance, as far as including like some very nice subtle tones of color, just making it look like a real animal would. As you lead back here into the front leg, you have some nice creasing going on right here, but a very muscular looking front leg here, with again lots of really nice tones of greens, lighter and darker shades of green, some osteoderms as you run down the course of the leg, some beautiful creasing going on there in the joint of the elbow. The elbow itself is present. You have a very nice foot sculpt, nicely painted nails. The nails do sport a gloss coat, so they look quite realistic. As you move back up into the body, you can see some more really nice skin texture to the Gigantspinosaurus. Again, some shades of like pink and stuff, which I really quite like. Showing up here and there, you have some nice variations of browns, greens, lighter and darker shades of color all throughout the entire stomach region. Really nice movement shown as far as the skin, as well as you can kind of see the skin stretching off of the body as this leg pulls back a little bit. It's not too far back, but it definitely can show off some movement in the skin, and it shows that really nicely in the sculpt. You have more osteoderms and stuff throughout. You also have an area right here where the raptor has torn into our Gigantspinosaurus. Some more fantastic scale detail as we continue to run the course of the dinosaur. The plates up there on the top continue to look really, really beautiful. Some very nice muscle tone in the rear leg as well. Beautifully sculpted out, honestly. And you have some more of like a little cluster of like scoots or osteoderms right there in the thigh area. Gorgeous looking detailing to the leg. We have like some nice creasing and everything going on back here. Beautiful kneecap present right here. A few osteoderms again in the calf region. The calf muscle is nicely displayed as well. And then we get down here into the rear foot. The rear foot also looks really quite nice. You can see the nicely painted nails, beautiful detailing down there, even in the ankle area. And then we lead back up into the tail. Again, we have more really nice skin details shown as far as the movement of our Gigantspinosaurus. More osteoderms and stuff. We see the plates up there, those kind of spike-like plates taper off right there. And then we lead out the length of the tail. The tail has a really cool curve to it as it is attempting to fend off the raptor from attacking it. You can see the thagomizers look really quite nice, painted with a nice coloration, a nice brown like we see up here on the back of the dinosaur. Then looking at the opposing side, it looks just as nice as the initial side. You're not going to see too much difference over here as far as the head, because the head looks like it's almost straight out. There's a slight curve in the neck, but nothing majorly different going on over here compared to what we had seen on the previous side. As we move back throughout the course of the body, the majority of the body is going to look also very similar to what we had seen over there. You can see the front legs are in a slightly different position, but it's not super drastic or anything. But you can see again that everything looks phenomenal as far as both the sculpt and paint job goes. Over here we can get a look at that very large trademark Gigantspinosaurus shoulder spike, and you can see that the actual detailing included within looks really, really good. And there's also even some variation of browns in the spikes as well. Lots of really nice coloration in the stomach region, and look at how beautiful that scaled detail is. Like, it just looks phenomenal. And then again, we have the rear leg here, which is slightly pushed forward in comparison to the opposing leg. So you can see the skin bunching up a little bit more over here as opposed to what we had seen on the previous side. The previous side was stretching a little more as opposed to the bunching up like we see here. Very nice foot sculpt down here. Again, the very nicely painted nails, giving a nice gloss coat, which my camera does not want to focus on, but it looks really good. And then we have the tail up here. Again, a little less creasing going on, a little more stretching compared to what we had seen on the previous side. Really nice detailing here on the underside of our Gigantspinosaurus, as well as we lead out the length of the tail out here to the tip with those thagomizers, which also are actually not just look, but are quite sharp. Definitely a really cool looking tail for the dinosaur, and you have some beautiful detailing here to the underside of our Gigantspinosaurus as well. So a beautiful, unquestionably sculpted out and painted Gigantspinosaurus. And then we have our base, and the base is pretty nice. It's got a very big kind of a wood area here on the underside, and then on the actual base we have like a very muddy and watery area. I guess it's kind of a stream or something that they're running through, and the scene is taking place within. Some nice paintwork to it. You can see lots of really nice splashing going on. However, I will say that I don't think the water looks all that realistic. Like, it doesn't look bad by any means, but it just could look better if it had a little bit more of a translucent type of a look. But I assume the goal here is kind of to insinuate that the water is very dirty where they are running through. But I just feel like it could have looked a little bit better. I definitely have seen a lot more realistic kind of recreated water scenes compared to what I'm seeing here, but it does still look pretty fun overall. Definitely sports some really nice coloration to the water, and in general the base has that like muddy area and stuff. It all looks really quite cool, and definitely helps to create this scene and bring an overall very dramatic look to this entire model. And then if we look at the underside of the base, again we have Gigantspinosaurus and Inner Mongolia Velociraptor, again continuing to confuse me as far as what species of raptor this is meant to imply, but definitely a pretty cool base for a really cool model. And then to apply our Gigantspinosaurus to the base, you just have to find the spots where the pegs kind of slide into, and it just goes right on nice and smooth. It's very heavy, so it's kind of hard to move it around here on the base without moving the entire like review station. And then of course to apply our raptor, we just have to reapply the shoulder spike right there into the slot that it goes into, and there we go. Our Damtoys scene is back together and looking really cool. As far as a size goes, for a length it definitely has a pretty good size. So for a length from the head to the tail, which it might be a little tough for you to see, it's about 17, closing in about 17 3/4 inches, or about 45 centimeters. And for a height, if we go to the top of the Velociraptor's tail, as we really move the camera around a little bit here, you are looking at about a foot, so about 12 inches, almost on the dot, or about 30.5, maybe closing in on 31 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Gigantspinosaurus and Velociraptor Inner Mongolia Velociraptor scene taking place here before us. And hopefully with these figures here in comparison, you'll have a pretty good idea of the fact that, as per usual, when it comes to a Damtoys statue, it does sport an incredibly impressive size as well as an incredibly impressive sculpt and paint job. So pretty much the total package. So this Damtoys Gigantspinosaurus versus Inner Mongolia Velociraptor scene is really cool. Again, it's a little confusing because I don't know exactly what version of a raptor this is meant to portray. I mean, it does obviously state Velociraptor, that's pretty specific, but I don't know of any Velociraptors that lived at the same time as a Gigantspinosaurus, and maybe I'm just not familiar enough with them. So maybe you guys can clue me in on this, maybe help me out as far as, you know, what species of raptor may have lived with the Gigantspinosaurus, but I personally don't know. So something I'll have to look into, I guess, in the future. But the sculpt of the raptor is really weird, very strange looking, and not my first choice as far as a raptor sculpt goes. I can appreciate the fact that it looks so unique and so different compared to most raptors, so at least Damtoys did try to come up with something a little bit creative, and they have done a great job, honestly, on the model overall as far as portraying that very unique appearance for a raptor. But it doesn't look that great, if you ask me. Unique for sure, but not that great overall. The paint job on the Raptor, though, does look really quite nice, and they've done a great job of applying lots of realism to the model, like the really nice gloss coat in the mouth, beautiful areas of like dry brushing to the body, and then some nice blood on the nails and everything, really showing off the scene that's taking place before us. I feel like a little more blood on the actual Gigantspinosaurus could have been a good thing, just to really iron out the fact that it's taken a little bit of damage while trying to fend off this raptor, but they didn't really give us much blood on the Gigantspinosaurus, and in fact I don't really see any anywhere, but a little bit could have helped for sure. The Gigantspinosaurus is gorgeous. Honestly, it's probably the best Gigantspinosaurus that I know of personally, although there aren't all that many models out there of it as far as what I'm familiar with. This is probably the best interpretation of it, and I think that Damtoys has done a fantastic job on this model as far as the sculpt and detailing aspect of the Gigantspinosaurus goes, as well as the paint scheme. The paint scheme looks great, really nice, very realistic as far as the actual application of the coloration goes. It's an overall very nice paint scheme for this type of dinosaur, which 100% looks natural on it, but the actual application of the paint on it as well looks really nice and natural. And they've even given the face of the Gigantspinosaurus kind of like a look of fear, like it genuinely looks like it's insanely scared as far as what is occurring with it right now. So I really like that aspect as well, bringing kind of even more life to the model and a lot of realism to the model. The base looks really cool, but it's definitely not as realistic as it could be. I feel like the water effect doesn't look all that legit, but it's pretty close. It doesn't look bad for sure. I don't want anybody to think I don't like it, but I feel like it just could have looked a little bit better if they would have maybe made the water splashing look a little more realistic. But at the same time, it does still look really quite nice. It's beautifully sculpted, beautifully painted, and the entire thing creates such a really cool, very dynamic scene taking place before us with loads of realism, even though there are, some questions as far as realism in the species, but the overall realism of like the fear in the face of the Gigantspinosaurus, the beautiful paintwork, everything kind of just looks really nice and very realistic if you ask me. But the model itself is fantastic. Even if it is a very questionable model, it's still a beautiful model and definitely something that I can suggest picking up. So make sure if you are interested, you head to the description, as I will do my best to find a link where it is still being sold. Don't know if it's still available on Sideshow, but if it is, I will link you there. Otherwise, I'll try to find somewhere else that is currently selling it. And if you are interested, make sure you pick it up and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.